So my name is Britta Baker. Happy Thanksgiving. I'm going to be really good at this because I thought I was just going to do a one take wonder and realized I wasn't even recording. I wasn't even in a meeting. So here we go. So I have the symbolic frame unit. So it's chapters 12, 13, and 14. I don't know if I mentioned it before, but happy Thanksgiving. So chapter 12 goes over cultural symbols in social life. So like myths, vision, story, heroes, ceremony, rituals, etc., and demonstrates culture. Chapter 13 applies symbolic concepts to team dynamics. And chapter 14 compares organizations to theater companies. Oh, right. I'm sorry, this isn't going. There we go. So, chapter 12, organizational symbols and culture. So, the chapter starts talking about the Palio in Siena, Italy, which is a horse race. It's twice each summer. Um, the race is still done today, and there's this intense competitiveness and pride that comes with it that only the town understands. Like, they really go all out. It almost reminded me of like borderline like gladiators, where like they put everything on the line. I don't think they die, but um, it's just this huge ceremony that time wise, what they said, it's like 75 seconds and it's all done. But it's this huge, just part of their identity in that other places in Italy just don't understand. So building this identity or community around a brand name um, is just like what the ancient traditions described previously and that are still done today. So the symbolic frame comprises many different ideas. So like organizational theory, sociology, political science, etc. I'm sorry, I'm skipping some things because I already know I'm going to run over. So it's composed of secular myths, heroes, and heroines, rituals, ceremonies, and stories to help people find purpose and passion. Culture forms kind of the superglue that bonds organizations. An organization, it unites people and helps an enterprise to accomplish desired ends. So organizational culture is shown through symbols. So for example, like Geico. I mean, it's hard to imagine Geico without the gecko, and same with like the Aflac's duck who like quacks out Aflac. Like it's hard to imagine. I mean, me personally, if I hear Aflac, I'm going to say Aflac like how the duck says it. Like they just built such a symbol around it. So companies are unified by these symbols. There's many different forms, like I said, logos, legends, mascots, etc. DC Yellow Jackets, as well as sophisticated control systems. So myth, vision, and values give organizations purpose. I don't think this is what they meant when they said vision, but I'm a huge Marvel fan. People know I love Crocs, but I also love Groot. I like to say like, people are like, what's your favorite Marvel superhero? I like to add on, and why is it Groot? So innocent, but also fierce. Like if you remember the scene, I'm sorry, tangent, Guardians of the Galaxy, where they are betting on that table, and Groot just looks so sad that these like little creatures are getting eaten, and he's just so pure, but he also kills people. But anyways, moving on. Myths are collective dreams or the story behind the story. So they reference Southwest startup on a cocktail napkin in a bar, and that's kind of their myth. Vision explains an organization's ethics or what they stand for. So values that count are ones that a company lives, not what's in a mission statement. So for example, Marines have Semper Fi, Semper Fidelis, which means always faithful. And we can kind of see this culture in their values that the Marines live out. So vision turns a company's core ideology into an image of the future. So I took from the reading that kind of unites a company. So we have this goal in the enrollment team to get a certain number of students, new students in for fall 2023. So this is what, even though I'm not admissions and I don't directly work with like the tours and visits and everything. Sorry, just to make sure it's still recording. Then I'm presenting. Even though I don't work with all of that day-to-day stuff of actually getting them, and I'm more of like behind the scenes with marketing, I still play a role, and so does financial aid into getting our number. That is our vision. So defines culture as a whole, our values, so we can see them, to know, to lead, to serve, and to understand, literally like around campus, on some of the banners, on the Sarah Hall lobby floor. But I believe they're clearly presented, like I said, and also just shown in the day-to-day stuff. So serving is huge on campus. One cannot deny how big it is in our culture with service leaders, and just like in Welcome Week, they had a serve day. That is such a big part of our culture. So there's also many myths that make up DC. I mean, the only one I can think of is that we started as a female seminary. the myths one was kind of harder for me to kind of pull into real life. So myths, values, and vision can all overlap. So heroes is another part. So organizations rely on CEOs or other leaders as exemplars. So this example that it gave was Mary Barra. She was the first woman as CEO of General Motors. She was in charge during the company crisis and handled it with directness and transparency that was new to GM and kind of changed GM's culture with them. So my book was from 2017, but it said since 2014, I believe it was 2017, don't quote me on that. But since 2014, she actually tripled profits. So the hero is kind of like a cultural hero. It's a living logo. They live the core values, and they're not always the top of organizations. I'm sorry, I'm getting these notifications about the recording, and it must be the previous one because I'm like, better still be recording. So stories are more than entertainment or moral instruction for children. Stories convey information, morals, and myths, and can be convincing. So they show values and keep the heroic beats alive. Rituals are symbolic acts in a routine that has a purpose, but one that alludes more than it says and has many meanings at once. So we create personal and communal rituals. Ones that carry meaning kind of become the dance of life, is what the textbook said. So rituals are more frequent, everyday routines with special meanings, and ceremonies are more episodic, grander, and more elaborate. So ceremonies socialize, stabilize, reassure, and convey messages to external sources. This is my favorite part because obviously I'm not the most serious person. So I love when I can kind of take a break and be more goofy. So metaphors kind of make the strange familiar and the familiar strange and capture subtle themes where humor integrates, expresses skepticism, contributes to flexibility and adaptiveness, and lessens status differences. Play is what people do away from the office, is what typically people think, but play is just a state of mind and anyone can become playful. That's kind of that's what I love about work is like, obviously you're there to get something done, but I like just building that culture of, just building that relationship with your coworkers and everything. Like, for example, lunch is a time for a break, but what do? We eat in the cafeteria with our coworkers and just joke around and, sometimes work gets brought up, but it's typically just kind of like, it's that playtime. Like we're goofing around for an hour. We're, joking around with each other and just kind of building the relationships between each other, which I love. I've made some of my best friends were made at work. Anyways, I will get off that. I will stop beating culture. Okay. So chapter 13, culture and action. So it gives a lot of real world life examples. So public fascination with the Navy SEALs was the first example in this, and what their culture says about the organization. So we can if someone says Navy SEALs, they just think of these hardworking, disciplined, probably some of the most just, what's the word? They just do the most, I'm trying not to swear, but it's the only thing that comes to mind is that they're just like bad. They're like the toughest, that kind of part of the, just different military. They do like the craziest missions and they're normally like rescue kind of things, at least what they show in movies. So these cultural components create these intense emotional and spiritual bonds. So chapter 13, pretty much the rest of it, most of it talks about the Eagle Group outperforming all of their divisions to produce this new product. So the tenets of the symbolic frame that we can pull from their experience is these 9 ones. I know I'm not supposed to put this much stuff on a slide, but here it is. So how one becomes a group member is important. So it's more than just a rational decision. It's a mutual choice markered by some form of ritual. So the Eagle Group process is a little intense. They're not just like joining the team, they're signing up. They conveyed that it was like a suicide mission. You're going to die, but you're going to die in glory, which was pretty intense. And I don't know if I would like that, but to diversity sports and teams competitive advantage. How boring and not conducive would it be if we were all the same? Can you imagine if you had 12 Britas on your team? It would be a little overwhelming, a little crazy. I wouldn't recommend it. So one Brita contributes to the synergy and just working together and having a diverse group of people. But a million Britas, I don't know about that. So the Eagle Group, they're all engineers, but they have these unique skills and styles and personalities and different specialties. They harness the resulting energy of diverse people into a working team. So like I said, synergy before. 3 was the example, not command, holds a team together. So if my boss, were to say like you need to be at work at 8, and they were here at 10, I probably wouldn't hold too much into what they say because they're not, they're just coming in and they're not leading by example. So 4, a specialized language fosters cohesion and commitment. Each group develops words and phrases and metaphors unique to the group. It reflects and will shapes a group culture. I know we have our own kind of language in the enrollment management team as well. So 5, stories carry history and values and reinforce group identity. Stories keep tradition alive and provide example to channel everyday behavior. I know meetings and stuff can be way more just engaging if there's stories that are shared. So 6, humor and play reduce tension and encourage creativity. Groups often focus on the task and discourage anything not work related, but effective teams will balance seriousness with play and humor. We know that I love that. I'm the first person to crack a joke, but I also understand that part of work, you need to be serious and everything. So, all right. Ritual and ceremony players lift spirits and reinforce values. So ritual and ceremonies are expressive occasions and make symbolic behavior. What happens on the surface is not always important as the deeper meaning. So the actual ceremony is not as important as what the ceremony represents and means. So the Eagle group had little time for these outside tasks and rituals, but they understood the importance of symbolic activity and tried to encourage rituals and ceremonies kind of where they fit in. So 8, I'm so sorry. So 8, informal culture. Players contribute disproportionately to their formal roles. So in the Eagle group, there was one main organizer and instigator of parties. He was also the conscious and confidant of the Eagle group. So every group has a person who kind of ministers to the spiritual needs. It deals with human issues outside of the formal channels, which is very important. Everybody in work kind of needs that person that they can talk to. So soul is a secret of success. Symbolic tenor was a secret of success. The soul or culture of the Eagle group created the new product. If the machine works, part of them were in the machine, and all the members put a piece of themselves into the new product when making it. Sorry, I'm running out of time. Chapter 14, organization as theater. The institutional theory draws on ideas from earlier dramaturgical theories. The two traditions. One was represented by the work of Erving Goffman. He pioneered the use of theater as a metaphor for understanding organizations. And the other one is work of Kenneth Burke, who was inspiration from philosophy and literary criticism. Goffman saw organizations as theatrical, and Burke saw them more as theater, like actual theater. So dramaturgical theories focus on social interaction among individuals and internal situations. So the institutional view encompasses 3 schools of thought, each in different literatures. So they view institutions as providing rules, which organizations are the players. It holds that individual organizations devise distinctive characteristics over time, developing commitments that channel and constrain future behaviors in the service of their basic values. Lastly, it also argues structure in institutional organizations and has prevailing myths and ideas about what makes a good organization. So contemporary organizations gain legitimacy through isomorphism, so it reflects thinking about modern management theory. All right, institutional organization is often criticized for focusing more on why organizations don't change over how they do and why organizations are irrational instead of how they become more effective. Institutional theories present dramaturgical retake on rational theory that organizations cannot seal off from external events and pressures. It does talk about collective bargaining. They pit 2 groups against each other. They negotiate teams and follow scripts. And this very much, like theater, is like a public stage. So power is a commodity that individuals possess, but power is ambiguous. Certain performances portray power, but aren't really power. So people might think that it's showing power, but it's not really what power is. So powerful leaders don't always make a difference. A successful leader has followers who believe in the power of their leader. So they might be in power, but it's not going to go that far if people don't believe you're in power. So management is a performance art. Okay, I'm just going to briefly go over this. I was going to skip it. That didn't have time, but we're just going to. An organization without a plan is in peril of being seen as reactive, short-sighted, and rudderless. Plans are symbolic. They become games, and they become excuses for interaction, and they can become advertisements. Assessing performance of individuals, departments, or programs is a major undertaking. Organizations spend time evaluating employees with doubt that it's not going to improve anything. So as drama assures spectators that an organization is responsive, serious, and well managed. They take the goal seriously and care about performance and improvement. All right, so I jumped around a little bit, but I covered chapters 12, 13, and 14. Thanks so much for watching. I hope everyone has a great rest of their holiday. I know I'm thankful for just the MBA program and being able to, I guess, just learn more and having great professors and just meeting other students. So thanks so much. Have a great rest of your week and a good holiday.